Hi my friends, welcome back. I'm John, and here we talk about all cars all the time. And today we're going to talk about the Genesis G80. Now, I've always thought of this as a not quite at the top tier of BMW, Mercedes, Lexus, but still being a really, really good car that is slightly a bargain. I want to talk about this a little bit, my opinions of Hyundai, Genesis, my journey to appreciate them, where some luxury cars kind of fit, and why I keep looking at the G80, and something I saw today which completely blew my mind. Alright, so welcome back, and if you haven't been here before, my name is John. I am not an auto executive, I am not a car salesman, and I am not a mechanic. This is my opinion channel because I think about cars all the freaking time. And the Genesis has kind of come on my radar, and I've kind of kept an eye on it, I guess is the best way to say it. It is fascinating to me to watch Hyundai over the past, let's say, 35 years come into their own, going from building other car manufacturers' designs and not building them very well, to building their own stuff, to coming out with a class-leading warranty, to starting to build reliable cars that tested pretty well and were a little bit of a bargain. And every generation of Hyundai seems to be evolutionary advancement, but a generational leap forward, whether it's styling, engines, everything. Really in the past, the recent past, they've fallen down in a couple of areas. One was kind of the ride and handling mix and interior material quality. Several years ago, we were looking for a car for one of my stepsons, and we were looking at the Civic, and my wife and I both have a high enough opinion of Hyundai and their reliability to go look at an Elantra. And it was okay. I mean, it was very comparable in almost every way, but the interior just felt a little cheap. For what it's worth, we ended up with the Honda. But even now, I think Hyundai has really, really improved their interior materials, and they look fantastic. Their cars, I increasingly like them. Not a big fan of the Sonata right now. I don't like that rounded hood and tail lights and everything they've got going on. Same design language in a lot of ways that Ford is using right now for the Escape, and it just does not work for me. Not saying it's not a good car, I just don't like the styling. So back in the day, Genesis, basically, Hyundai looks at Toyota, and whatever Toyota does, Hyundai's going to go do it. And they needed to come out with their luxury car. So they introduced Genesis as the top of the Hyundai tree and developed it. And eventually, as we know, Genesis spun off into its own division. And their cars have been well reviewed. Their sport utilities are being very well reviewed. And I've always kind of kept my eye on it because if you've watched any of my videos, you know I like to buy used, I like to keep my cars for a long time, and by gosh, I like a bargain. I am way more focused on saving and investing for the future than I am in having a prestigious car. But I've always kept my eye on it as, man, this would be a good car for one day. They've spun it off into the G70 and the G80 and the G90 and the car range. And I've driven several Genesises over the years. I knew a guy who had one, and it was spectacular inside. In terms of the technology they packed in and the features it had, it was super, super cool. But the interior was just a little low rent. You know, you didn't get that baked-in quality feeling you got from, say, a Mercedes. Kind of the peak of my interest in a luxury car would be the Lexus ES. And don't laugh when I say that, okay? I really would dream of an E-Class, but the Mercedes E-Class falls into this weird no man's land for me. If I won the lottery, and I didn't care if my car was reliable, I would go buy a Jaguar or a Land Rover, and then I'd buy a Honda Accord. so that when the Jag or the Land Rover was in the shop, I would just drive the Honda. Mercedes doesn't fall into that for me. I'd rather get something more special, more cool. But if I'm working and having to make the payments on a $50,000 car, I'm not going to get something that I'm afraid I'm going to have a problem with, specifically technology issues. The fact is, I think the Mercedes are beautiful. I love the E-Class. I love it so much. But I don't have that feeling that it's going to be as bulletproof, reliable, and durable as old Mercedes. I think they're better than BMWs, okay? I'll give you this. But I just don't have that feeling that it wouldn't have mechanical or technology issues where it ends up in the shop and I need a second car. I'm not going to pay money for a car and then also buy another car for when it breaks. And for that reason, I really like the Lexus ES. It rides good, it's luxurious, it's bulletproof. I think it's a great car. There's no passion there, but I think it's a great car. And so, second part of this story is 2 years ago, I think. It wasn't 2020 because of the pandemic. I think it was 2019. I'd gone to our auto show locally. And Genesis was kind of up near the front and Lexus was kind of back at the back. And so it ended up that the Genesis G80 and the Lexus ES were almost the first and the last cars that I had gone to see. And I was blown away with how much I liked the Genesis. And I actually walked back and forth between them. Styling's a little different, interior styling's different, but the Genesis didn't have that feeling I'd had in previous visits with Hyundai products, that everything wasn't quite as good, you know? It was really, really impressive. So I was out earlier and I saw one of the new G80s, and I love their design language right now. I think they're doing something that looks special, that looks substantial, and just different than everything else that's out there. I really, really like what Genesis is doing right now. And so I came home and I started thinking about it. I'm like, well, you know, I think about cars all the time. Here's my little dreamland. Let's take a quick look. And my expectation is that Genesis, as a brand that's still building, still having these revolutionary leaps forward in quality and design, they were going to be the bargain. Wow, was I surprised. All right, so I've hopped over here to the Genesis site, actually. So this is information directly from Genesis, and I've compared the base G80 and the base ES. Now, I know the ES has the 250 now. It's all-wheel drive. It's the same base price as the 6-cylinder. I just wanted to compare these because they're recommended as the base models, okay? What totally, completely shocked me is the base price of the ES is $40,000. The base price of the G80 was $47,700. Okay? Similarly equipped, the G80 is $4,000 more than the Lexus. Now, the Lexus has a 6-cylinder. They make similar horsepower. The Genesis makes better torques, if you will, similar transmissions. And scrolling down here, interior dimensions, they're pretty similar. The ES is 100 interior cubic inches. The Genesis is 104. And most of that seems to come up here in the headroom. Genesis just seems to be a taller car. And the gas mileage is extremely similar. So I can get a Lexus for less money with a 6-cylinder engine that won't be quite as high strung as that 4-cylinder and get basically the same gas mileage. This blew my mind. And I found myself thinking, well, am I looking at the wrong Genesis? I mean, I appreciate them. I think the styling's fantastic. But why would I pay $4,000 more over a Lexus? So I went and looked at the G70, and it is less expensive, but it's also substantially smaller. It's about 6 cubic feet, actually, smaller than the Lexus and more comparable to the IS. So in short, I haven't done an in-depth analysis of every product between them. I just looked at the G80 because I thought it was actually slightly smaller and I thought it was substantially cheaper than the Lexus. I expected maybe a $38,000 price versus a $44,000, whereas it turned out to be almost exactly opposite. I'm really shocked at this, and Genesis must be very, very proud of themselves. I don't know how their sales are going. I don't know what their business plan is for the future, but they seem to feel like they've hit their niche, and they're plowing into it for profit, not for growth. I still personally, as much as I like the G80, there's a difference here. It might be good. There might be, their initial quality is fantastic. I might be able to find owners that are happy with them long term, but I don't in my gut believe that the G80 is really there with Toyota Lexus quality in terms of wanting to buy a car that I would keep for 10 to 15 years. I was looking for Genesis to be a little bit of a bargain, and it's not. And that completely blew my mind. Now, maybe their G70 is, maybe the G90 is, I don't really know. I've always been very frustrated that Lexus has this hole between the ES and the LS where the GS used to sit. They don't have anything that really competes directly with like the E-Class anymore. I guess the ES is supposed to. But I'm just completely shocked. I thought Genesis was still marketing themselves as a slightly less expensive alternative to the Japanese and the German manufacturers, and apparently that's not the case. Apparently they've raised their prices up, and to the point that it's more than Lexus. So I just thought I'd share my thoughts with you today. I would love to hear from you. Am I missing something obvious? Am I wrong? Is Genesis truly a better brand than Lexus now? I'd love to hear your thoughts. I know this is short. I know it's a little wandering, but I'm shocked, honestly. And I wanted to just let you all know and see what your feedback is. So thanks, guys. I appreciate you being here again.